nothing, bro.
One of them was crucified upside down. One was skinned alive. One vanished so completely that historians still argue about where he died, or if he even died at all. Jesus had 12 men who walked beside him, ate with him, watched him die, and then watched him disappear. No instructions, no leader, no church. Just 11 terrified men. Judas was gone, left to decide, run and hide or finish what he started. They chose to finish it, and it cost every single one of them everything. Over the next few decades, these 12 fishermen, tax collectors, and nobodies would scatter across 3 continents, into empires that hated them, cities that had never heard the name Jesus, and in almost every case, a violent death waiting at the end of the road. This is what actually happened to them, not the Sunday school version, the real one, pieced together from history, tradition, and the few fragments that survive, where they went, how they died, and which one might have gotten away. Here's the honest truth before we start. The Bible itself barely tells us. The book of Acts follows Peter for a while, then Paul, who wasn't even one of the original 12, and the rest just fade out of the text. Everything else comes from early church historians, local traditions, and writings from the 2nd and 3rd centuries. Some of it's solid, some of it's legend stacked on legend. I'll tell you which is which as we go. Let's start with the one who denied him 3 times and became the rock anyway. Peter didn't run to safety after the resurrection. He ran toward the fight. Tradition says he preached across Judea, then Antioch, then finally Rome, the capital of the empire that would eventually kill him. For years, he led the growing Christian movement underground, dodging Roman authorities who saw this new sect as a threat to public order. Then, around 64 AD, Emperor Nero needed someone to blame for the Great Fire of Rome. Christians became his scapegoat, and Peter, according to church history, was arrested and sentenced to crucifixion. Here's the detail that gives people chills. Peter reportedly asked to be crucified upside down, not out of despair, out of reverence. He didn't feel worthy to die the same way as Jesus. Whether that detail is literal history or powerful legend, one thing is agreed on almost universally. Peter, the man who once denied even knowing Jesus to save his own life, died refusing to deny him at all. Peter's brother didn't stay in Judea either. Andrew went north, into modern-day Turkey, Greece, and by some accounts, as far as Ukraine and Russia, where he's still honored today as a founding figure of the church. But it's what happened to him in Greece that historians still can't agree on the details of. According to tradition, Andrew was crucified in the city of Patras, but not on a standard cross. He was bound, not nailed, to an X-shaped cross, left to die slowly over days, preaching to onlookers the entire time. That X-shaped cross has a name now, the St. Andrew's Cross. You've seen it on flags. Scotland's flag is built entirely around it. Peter's brother didn't stay in Judea either. Andrew went north, into modern-day Turkey, Greece, and by some accounts, as far as Ukraine and Russia, where he's still honored today as a founding figure of the church. But it's what happened to him in Greece that historians still can't agree on the details of. According to tradition, Andrew was crucified in the city of Patras, but not on a standard cross. He was bound, not nailed, to an X-shaped cross, left to die slowly over days, preaching to onlookers the entire time. That X-shaped cross has a name now, the St. Andrew's Cross. You've seen it on flags. Scotland's flag is built entirely around it. Here's where the story gets strange. Tradition holds that John, James's brother, and possibly the closest to Jesus of all 12, was the only apostle to die of old age. That doesn't mean Rome didn't try. Early accounts claim he was thrown into a vat of boiling oil in Rome and walked out unharmed. Whether or not that's literal, he was exiled afterward to the island of Patmos, a Roman penal colony, and it's there, tradition says, he wrote the book of Revelation. He's believed to have died in Ephesus, likely in his 90s. In a group defined by violent endings, John is the outlier, and that alone made him legendary. Philip's story takes us into modern-day Turkey, to a city called Hierapolis. Tradition says he was preaching there when he ran into open hostility from local officials. Some accounts say it involved a confrontation over pagan worship of snakes. He was arrested and, like several others on this list, crucified. Archaeologists actually uncovered what they believe is his tomb in Hierapolis in 2011, a real excavation, not just legend, giving weight to a tradition that had survived for nearly 2,000 years. This is the one from the opening line. Bartholomew, also identified in some traditions as Nathaniel, is said to have carried the gospel into Armenia, and it's there that tradition describes one of the most brutal deaths of any apostle, flayed alive, then beheaded. It's gruesome enough that it became a favorite subject for Renaissance painters. Michelangelo included a self-portrait on Bartholomew's flayed skin in the Sistine Chapel's Last Judgment. Bartholomew is still considered the patron saint of Armenia today. Thomas, the one who doubted the resurrection until he touched the wounds himself, traveled the farthest of any apostle. Strong tradition, backed by an actual Christian community that still exists today, says Thomas sailed to India. The St. Thomas Christians of Kerala trace their roots directly back to him, claiming nearly 2,000 years of unbroken history. Tradition holds he was killed near Chennai, speared to death after converting local nobility angered the ruling priesthood. His supposed tomb still stands there, a pilgrimage site to this day. Matthew, the former tax collector, the man everyone in his hometown would have despised for working for Rome, is said to have preached in Ethiopia or Persia, depending on the source. Tradition claims he was killed by the sword, possibly on the order of a local king, angered by Matthew's opposition to his marriage. Fittingly for the writer of the most detailed gospel account, even his death has multiple competing versions. Historians still aren't sure which one is closest to true. 3 apostles here whose stories are thinner but no less brutal in tradition. James the Less is said to have been thrown from the top of the Jerusalem temple, then beaten to death when the fall didn't kill him. Simon the Zealot and Jude Thaddeus are traditionally linked together, preaching in Persia and dying there as martyrs, some accounts saying Simon was sawn in half, a detail so grim it became his symbol in religious art. Little is confirmed, but the pattern by now should be obvious. Nearly every single one of them ended the same way. After Judas betrayed Jesus and died, the remaining 11 did something almost nobody remembers. They held a vote. Acts chapter 1 says they chose a replacement, a man named Matthias, to restore the number to 12. He'd apparently followed Jesus from the very beginning, but never got named in the gospel. Tradition sends him to Cappadocia, then possibly Ethiopia, where he was eventually martyred, stoned, then beheaded, according to some accounts. He's the 13th name in a story that's supposed to only have 12, and almost nobody knows him. So, back to the question from the very start. Which one might have gotten away? The honest answer, John is the closest thing to it. He's the only one tradition agrees died naturally, not by execution, but got away isn't quite right either. He survived an assassination attempt, endured exile to a prison colony, and watched every close friend he'd ever had die violently, one by one, over decades. Maybe nobody got away. Maybe that was never the point. 11 violent deaths. One long, hard survival. Continents apart, decades apart, almost none of them ever seeing each other again after they scattered. And yet what they started didn't die with them. It's the reason this story is even something we're still talking about 2,000 years later. Whatever you believe about the theology, the history is hard to argue with. 12 ordinary men were handed an impossible task with no guarantee of safety, no army, no political power, and they didn't stop. Not one of them. If you want the deep dive on any one of these, Peter in Rome, Thomas in India, or the mystery of Matthias, let me know in the comments which one you want next. And if this kept you here till the end, you'll want to see what I'm covering next.